What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a bit of a different topic because we usually cover a lot of free-to-play games on our channel and we talk a lot about newly released titles as well as games on different genre. For an example, games like first-person shooters, action-adventure games, survival games and more. And on top of that, we also talk a lot about free-to-play games that can actually run on a very low-end hardware. So if you're someone who doesn't have the most highest-end system to play games and you're still stuck with your 10-year-old laptop or PC to play games, and if that's the case, I'm gonna tell you guys how you can enjoy gaming in 2023. The main reason why I'm making this video because I got tons of comments asking various type of questions. Can I run this game on this system specs? Can I play this game on my this graphic card? So basically people have very little knowledge of how capable of their system and what games that they can actually run on their hardware. So this video is highly recommended for people who have very low-end hardware but still try to enjoy gaming in 2023. So if you're someone who's having a decent gaming PC or a laptop or even a gaming console, this video is definitely not for you. So anyway guys, let's get right into it. Alright guys, in this video I'm not going to talk about specifically any games because I made tons of videos regarding these topics. Instead I'm going to talk about what type of games that you can capable of playing on your system and finally where you can find these games. And most of you guys know nowadays the games are getting bigger and more demanding. So if you had some type of a capable gaming PC or a laptop few years back, nowadays it feels like much more outdated because nowadays most of the games require pretty high minimum system requirement, especially the games released in 2022 and 2023, the games like Hogwarts Legacy, Last of Us Part 1, and even games like Resident Evil 4 Remake and most of the recently released titles like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. These are some of the most demanding titles to be released on this year. So if you're someone who try to upgrade your system in 2023 or even to build a pretty budget gaming PC, at least try to enjoy some of these AAA titles even in very low setting. These are some of the bare minimum system requirements you need to have right now. So starting with CPU requirements, nowadays you need to at least have to have 4 cores. So for an example, if you're talking about pretty old CPUs, something like i5 4th gen, it still works pretty fine with majority of games. So when it comes to minimum RAM requirement, you need to have at least like 8 gigs of RAM. That is kind of the bare minimum you need for gaming these days, but some games actually need even more RAM, something like 12, 16 gigs, which sounds crazy. But anyway, when we're talking about the graphic card requirement, the integrated graphics is not going to cut it in 2023. You need to have at least like 4 gigs of VRAM even to launch some of these AAA titles because these games are very demanding when it comes to VRAM. So something like GTX 960 4 gigs version or something like GTX 1050, it's gonna work fairly well even with some of these less demanding AAA titles. But if you can get a hands on something like RX 580 8 gigs version, that is an exceptionally good card even in 2023. Alright, all of these things that I mentioned is only relevant if you're trying to build a budget PC right now, but most of you guys already have a system to play games. Even if it's a very low-end system, there are tons of games that are still enjoyable and still able to play on these low-end systems even in 2023, which is kind of crazy. But there is no real definition for low-end systems, but some people think having a graphic card or not having a graphic card makes it a low-end or high-end system. That is actually not true. But anyway, these are some of the system specs that I personally feel like that categorize under the low-end system. So having a CPU with at least like 2 cores, something like a dual core to do, which are pretty old and outdated CPUs now, or even something like i3 2nd gen or 3rd gen also comes under this low spec CPU requirement. When it comes to RAM, you need to have at least 2 to 4 gigs of RAM, but having 4 gigs of RAM is a massive bonus, especially when it comes to gaming. But you can still get away with some of these games having 2 gigs of RAM, especially if you are running under Windows 7. So as the graphic card wise, you could have integrated graphics something like Intel HD 4000 or even something like Intel HD 520 or 620, or you could also have some type of a low-end graphic card like Nvidia GT640, GT730. So those will also comes under this low specs hardware. Alright, now let's talk about what type of games that you can actually play if you have a low-end system and where you can find these games. First of all, newly released titles. Yes, there are hundreds of new games releasing onto the Steam every day, especially free-to-play games, and I would say about 40-50% of them can actually run on low-end systems. And most of these games going to be pretty small, indie developed titles that is very less demanding on your hardware, but overall gives you a really fun gaming experience. So most of these games going to be casual games, 2D games, platformer games, puzzle games, and sometimes first-person shooter games. So if you're interested in more of these games, I recently made a video about 50 of the best newly released free-to-play titles you can play on a low-end system, so definitely go ahead and check out that video. So you might find at least like 5 or 6 games that you might interested in, so highly recommend you guys to check that video as well. So other than that, there are paid games as well that you can run on low-end systems, but most of these games are pretty old titles. But one game that is recently caught my eye and blowing up on popularity right now is the BattleBit Remastered. Yes, the game comes with a $15 price tag, but you can run this game on a very potato system as long as you have enough RAM to play the game, which is really awesome. So other than some of these newly released indie titles, there are a whole catalog of all games you can play on these low-end systems. Especially some of the AAA titles released about 10 years ago can easily run on some of these low-end systems in 2023. I personally experienced this because back in 2013 I had a pretty low-end system with the Nvidia GT 610. Honestly, back in the day the games were not that demanding. I was able to play some of these AAA titles easily on my system. For an example, games like Tomb Raider, Far Cry 4, Battlefield 3 and 4, and pretty much all Call of Duty games up to Black Ops 2 I was able to play easily on my system back in the day, which means even if you have a system like this in nowadays, you can definitely enjoy some of these old titles. Next up, we got mobile games. Yes, you can enjoy a lot of mobile games on a low-end system, especially those who are available dedicated for PC. And I'm not talking about running the game on an emulator, because running an emulator is a very high demanding on a low-end system. And I'm talking about the games that have a native Steam or PC version. For an example, some of the most recently released titles like Combat Masters and Fallout 84, which is very popular games nowadays, can easily download through Steam and play. So most of these mobile based titles can easily run on your low-end system and can overall be a very pleasant gaming experience. So up until now we got newly released titles, all games, as well as some mobile based titles. So other than that, we also got browser games as well, which I personally think is a great alternative, especially to run on a very low-end system, because you don't have to download or install anything. All you gotta do is just turn on your browser and start playing. There are thousands of browser games available to play, and some of these games are really enjoyable and surprisingly better than some of the games available on Steam, especially games like Crunker, Venture.io, Assault Bot, and Assault Forward Remix. These are some of my personal favorite games, but other than that, I also got a video regarding 50 of the best browser games you can enjoy, and there are tons of games that you're definitely going to enjoy, and all of these games can absolutely run on a low-end system. So finally, we cannot forget about the games that is available on Roblox launcher. There are thousands of great games available on Roblox, which is basically a massive collection of free games that you can enjoy on a low-end system, because all of these games are based upon the Roblox engine, which is very less demanding and very easy to run on any type of system. I previously made a bunch of videos on my channel regarding Roblox games, but 3 of my personal favorite games are Riotfall, Rolling Thunder, and Frontline. These are all first-person shooter games, but I had a really fun time playing this. And as I said guys, there are hundreds, thousands of games available on Roblox launcher. All you gotta do is just download the launcher and just make an account. Then you will have an access to massive collection of free games. Some of the games are a bit demanding compared to other games, but most of these games can easily run on a potato system without any issues. Well, that's pretty much wrap up the video guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, especially if you are a low-end gamer and looking for some alternative way to find some great games to enjoy. I know it's a bit of a different topic, but I really had a fun time making this video, just talking about in general and adding some of my personal experience as well. So finally guys, as always, if you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and drop a like on the video and also subscribe, because we cover tons of free-to-play games on our channel. I'll catch you guys soon in my next one. Stay safe.